Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you have pen and paper because I'm going to explain to you something that you weren't aware of.
My problem!
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tinfoil Radio from an undisclosed government bunker. And against my better judgment, today we're going to do something different for episode 5.
I think this is probably going to be 5. Jim Brockmeyer. What the hell? 5.
Anyway,
episode 5, we're going to talk to Tyler Allen.
Yeah, we've talked about fake birds that are actually drones that surveil us. We've talked about
fake birds.
We've talked about the flat Earth. We've talked about the hollow Earth. We've talked about the Denver International Airport.
What in God's name could convince somebody to think that the Earth is flat?
Find out tonight.
On Tinfoil Radio.
So Tyler has concocted his own lists of conspiracies. Now, I don't know if you actually believe this stuff, but
I'm going to do a little explanation here.
Some satire.
The main thing is that...
Which I hate that you had to say that explicitly, that these are jokes.
People
don't understand satire.
Yes and no. The thing is that, the general idea of this show is Jake does all the research, and then I react to it. And we're starting to, things as life does, things change, and schedules change, and it may be that we're going to kind of have to get to a point where we're both doing research and kind of change whatever. So, you know what? Give you a little break. I thought, hey, why not next week instead of you having to choose a thing? I'll write down some funny stuff, but I'm also kind of going to talk about exactly what, to me as a free-thinking individual, it's really easy to look at these conspiracy theories and go, well, that's dumb, like the ones that we've done.
Yeah.
But it's also really easy to look at other conspiracy theories and go, well, yes, but no. And then it's also really easy to look at the world and go, well, it's that way for a reason. It's not just coincidence.
Well, it's like I said in the first episode. It's just people trying to explain how the world works. And, some of them go in the direction.
Because that's human nature.
Right. And some of them think, well, there's got to be this
The
core.
Bible told me I should have dominion over all things on the living earth, and how come I don't?
Next week, we're going to do our first profile episode.
Yes. See, we're going to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, and she's a YouTuber. Look her up now. That's your homework for next week. Look up Lynn Leah's. So it's Lyn Leah with a Z. So I don't know if that's her real name or not, but that's how she introduced herself.
She's been saved.
Yeah, she's hard. She does a lot of conspiracy theories, and here's going to be the hard part of it. They're all super long, and it's usually her in the woods. Don't know why she's in the woods, but that's just...
She's getting back to nature.
These conspiracy people really love to be outdoors when they're telling their theories.
Well,
I don't know what
it's actually,
But anyway, check her out.
Yeah.
She has her video, the first one, that was posted on February 18th, was saying that proof in the Bible that there is a way... Oh, Ashley just showed me a picture of my puppy.
I thought you were going to say something else. Just showed me a picture of... Whoa. This is a family show.
It's a wiener pic. No, but check her out, because her first video is saying that it says in the Bible there are strict guidelines how to survive the coronavirus or some other virus, and it's going to be a wild ride. But before we do that, we're going to do your conspiracies.
So let's kick that off right there. Let's use that as a launching off point. Hey, did
we talking about coronavirus?
When you were growing up, did you know that you were going to be alive for the end of the world?
I've survived like 3 of them now.
Yeah.
Because Y2K. The Mayans predicting 2012.
That's bullshit. They ran out of stone.
We're definitely going to cover that at some point.
Anybody got? Are we going to do 2013?
Terry, you made it to 2012. No, there's no way we're going to live that long.
Listen, by the time we get that close, we'll have more stone, okay? Let's get drunk.
Come on, let's party it
Jesus,
up.
or
It's-
whatever it is that Oaxacal has bestowed upon us.
Come on, Terry. It's Mesopotamia. Have some fun.
Quetzalcoatl,
Well,
The fiery-
the Mayans
the-
were in Mesopotamia.
the fiery
weren't
serpent god. What?
they?
The Mayans? No, the
It was
Mayans
in
were in
South
South
America,
America,
yeah.
and as were the Aztecs. Different. And
I just destroyed all my
Mesopotamia was in the
history
Middle
cred.
East.
Anyway, we're getting off topic.
Yeah.
So what's your first
So here's an easily provable one. Let's talk about Israel and all that stuff and
oh,
whatnot.
jeez. Israel?
Well, you were talking about Mayans and the end of the world things, and
gonna
it
regret this
kind of
episode.
reminded me that a lot of people seem to understand. First things first. These are very checkable things, and I'll tell you if I'm being joking and or not. I'm not joking right now. Right now, there's in the Gaza Strip, there's a humanitarian crisis, and most free-thinking people look at it and go, "Well, why do we give all this support to Israel?" And you would think, with the racist undertones and everything going on in our government right now, that most of those people on that side would be like, "Hell no, I'm not supporting the Jewish state," right? Because isn't that kind of right? But here's an actual conspiracy theory, and it's true, is that most people on the right in our country are giving all this money to Israel, not because they support Israel or the Jewish state, but in the Bible, it states that at the end times that Israel has to exist in order for it to be wiped off the face of the earth. So there are a lot of Christian conservatives out there right now who are thinking, hey, we can bring about the end of the world because in their minds we're too far gone to fix it. It's time for
But what
Jesus
about
to come back.
Republicans that are pro-Israel?
Well, no, I'm saying that they are because of that.
Because I think that it could.
They'll say like, well, we just
Okay.
support our allies in the Middle East. Like, no, you don't. You just want to make sure that that's there for when God comes back or whatever fairy tale you have going on this week.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the promised land. That's God's land.
It's in the Bible. People call it the Bible. I call it too many cooks. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you know what, Jake? Let's get together 15 of our friends and write about something that happened 90 years ago and see if people will follow that shit as if their lives depended on it, even their afterlives.
Yeah, but we need a God character to talk.
Me? No.
That's your God voice?
Well, am I gonna be am I gonna be benevolent or am
Are
I?
you going to be a cool God? Are you New Testament
Am
God?
I
You
Old Testament?
Testament
If
God?
I'm Old Testament God, I'm like, get the fuck out of the garden. If I'm New Testament, I'm like, well, hello, my children.
Because New Testament
Would you
God
like an apple?
is, we always said, my friends always say, New Testament God chilled out because he had a kid. That's when Jesus showed up.
Right.
But so that's the first one.
No, that's a serious one.
Christian
That's something
conservatives
that's
are
something
trying
that can
to
easily
end the
be
world.
checked. And in this current climate we're in, they're hiding it less and less. So you could probably Google any number of Republican politicians and that phrase, and you'll probably find them saying it now. Because I've read a couple articles where they're just out and out. Yeah, you know what? The reason why we support Israel is because it's gotta go, and we're trying to bring Jesus back. And like that's fucked up. Yeah, that's what I said.
But I thought we weren't supposed to know when Jesus comes back.
Well, hey,
He's sneaky.
If this is the first time that you've heard of a Christian trying to say that they know what God,
Anyway, next story.
just saying, man.
You're swinging. These Tyler conspiracy episodes.
I'm just fucking saying, dude. Okay, as far as I was taught, it is blasphemous to think you know God's plan, and all
It's
these people
true.
who are really pro-Christian
true.
are like, I know exactly what God wants. He doesn't want gay people. Like that's weird because I've never been that confident. I really like beef sticks, ladies and gentlemen. Beef sticks are great. There's Jack Links, there's pepper, there's
shout out
teriyaki.
Shout out to Duke's.
Dukes,
little spicy
shouties.
Dukes shorties.
I know they're pronounced shorties, but
Well, they're rolled up, and they're the tip of them are rolled up like.
listen,
pepper.
I got my finger on the pulse of the streets, so
Of-
they're
of
shouties.
packaged meats.
Yeah, those are really good though.
I'm
they're
actually eating
they're
some jerky
spicy
right now.
and they're good, right? Well, how much did that cost you, Jake?
her mom bought it for Christmas.
Okay.
It does say use or freeze by January 18th, and I'm eating it right now. So if I get sick, I get sick.
Well, the reason why I'm
trust
asking how much it costs is because that's a fairly substantial bag.
And I don't want it to be bad. I don't want to spit out my jerky.
Oh,
It's
no,
bad.
no. And it's not about that either, because this next one is really going to knock your socks off. You ever been in the Casey's and you're like, man, okay, like the best things about really small towns are there's two really great things. When you go to a restaurant in a really small town and you order blue cheese dressing and on the menu it's spelled BLUE, that is going to be some good ass shit blue cheese dressing, okay?
Or
It's
the
not even
different
spelled
spelling?
right. BLEU.
Blu-ray?
No, BLEU is how blue cheese.
Oh, blue. Yeah.
But it's spelled like the color.
Right.
You know that is going to be some good ass blue cheese dressing. That's fucking shit. And then the other thing
Doesn't like blue cheese.
is gas stations will have a beef jerky or beef sticks kind of little area. And the further you go in the country and off the beaten track, the crazier the beef jerky you can get. That's like, I've never seen this shit before.
I'm eating sweet Chipotle beef jerky.
But wherever you go, you can almost always find the Jack Link's dollar beef sticks. They're about the size of a pencil. They're about $1.29, and they are delicious. And when you think about the fact that it's kind of a chopped and formed type of thing, and those Jack Links like peppered like honking things are like clearly like beef that was just dried and then stuffed into a fucking package and vacuum sealed, right?
Yeah.
And you start thinking about it, and you're like, well, that stuff right there is not much more weight than the stuff that I'm buying, and yet it's way more expensive.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, Jake?
I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to be competitive in the market and have good prices, or, you know. What?
This one is satirical, folks, but seriously, why are they so cheap? It's because they're made from the flesh of Chinese dissidents. I know it's tough to think about, and when you eat them next time, you're like, oh, I can't believe that I'm eating the leader of the Wu province rebellion. But they spiced it
way,
up real
Brian.
good. What?
You're telling me President, is it Xi?
I don't know what the guy's name is. All I remember is
XI,
Mao
I think that's how
Zedong.
it's spelled, but
Mao Zedong. I think it's, Z.
Z, yeah. President Z. You're telling me if anybody rebels against him, like, hashtag free Hong Kong, that stuff, that he will kill them and turn them into packaged meat?
No, that he will put them in prisons and then forget about them. And then
And
other
then they'll
people.
die.
So, let's be honest. Do you really think that every level of the government in China knows what every other level is doing? Let's get real here. Let's get real.
Because they're following one
In
guy.
fact,
They're
Xi
following
is
Z.
Xi is pretty much a figurehead, okay? Like, I mean, he's
Is it Z or G?
whatever. It doesn't matter. No.
The Chinese president. That the name we can't get right.
Exactly. Also,
Anyway.
we don't know what it is, so. But the point is that this is kind of not satirical, but China has found a way to manage a very large population with the appearance of democracy, appearance of freedom. But there are some serious laws there that you cannot break. And one of them is calling for democratic elections. Or the ability to protest, or the ability to say the Chinese government is fucking dumb. That's illegal. Did you know that there's only 2 countries in the world that actually have criminal penalties for defacing the flag?
Ours in China?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Isn't yeah, they have don't they have stuff with like anti-gay laws, like
Sure.
anti-homosexual
Sure.
laws, stuff like that?
Read up, if you're interested, read up on the Cultural Revolution in China back in the, I want to say 50s to
You
the 70s.
want to talk about a country that's
That
been
shit was fucked up.
a country that's been through some shit? It's China. It is China because of all the nasty stuff that happened to them from the Japanese in World War II.
Oh, yeah, dude.
the raping and the killing
the
and
rape
the-
of Nanking is horrifying, yes.
Yeah. So you're saying this country's been through some stuff. So this is how they're controlling their population, is by saying you can't protest, you can't do this stuff, which is true.
It's very true.
And
But they'll
they're
throw you
getting put
into
in jail.
prison, yeah, and then eventually
it's
somebody will be like,
overpopulated.
we can't really fucking feed these guys. Unless we fed them to each other. Ooh, ding, ding. And there's like a big light bulb, except for it's a Chinese light bulb, because I think they're different looking.
But then how
Have you
do
ever
they?
seen like a European light bulb? They're kind of different.
Well, they're like the. Well, I know we got like coil ones.
You know, like when you have to buy an adapter when you go overseas? Because they have like
Their
9-volt.
plugins are weird.
Stupid Europeans.
Never been to Europe, but I'd go there.
Oh, those European elitists and their socialism.
I want to go to Rome. If I were to go to anywhere,
Rome would be cool. I've been to Germany. Germany was cool. Yeah. So
that's the cool thing about
so
Europe. You can just take a
satirical
train.
beef sticks are made out of Chinese dissidents.
So, but how do they get here? How do they ship them here? Because I mean,
that's
if they're
on a need to know basis.
if they're skinning the, if they're cooking these prisoners, chances are those prisoners are probably starved. So there's not a lot of meat. And you're trying to tell me they're mass producing it?
Well, they used to wait until they were starved. Now they're just taking them and going,
When they're
hey, where did you come from? From the library? No shit. Get in there.
wait,
It is hot.
Wait a minute.
Shut up.
we were. That's one of the atrocities. If you're a fat person in China, you get arrested because you have more meat to mass produce. It's
Beef
jerky.
sticks.
This is
Sure.
satire, people. Really don't think this.
That part is satire, but yes, China's fucked up, man.
Yes, China in general.
And unfortunately, because
We
they
do too much business over there, and so people compromise.
the entire world really has to work around China for the next century at least.
We're
good
a
luck
world-
with that.
We're a world economy,
We're a world economy.
and they make all of our stuff for cheap.
They do.
And so, rather than pay our workers a good wage, we will outsource it.
You know what
to
farmers
China.
were thinking about? They were like, man, I'm so tired of selling all those fucking soybeans to a giant ass. Can we sell soybeans to a tiny little country just south of us? And President Trump was like, sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Talking about the Mexico trade agreement.
USMCA.
Why are we sending it all the way to China? They need us.
I don't know, man, but we sold a shitload of soybeans to those motherfuckers.
That's because they
And
need.
cutting it off was not a good idea, but
So
whatever.
yeah, that conspiracy.
You guys ever heard of the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression? Because we're heading for a Great Depression 2 and another Dust Bowl. Just saying. Because hey, guess what? There's no workers to pull the crops or to plant them correctly, so that's getting fucked up.
Oh my gosh, this is playing into the beef sticks thing.
This is for real, you guys.
I'm
is
trying to
going
make
to
light of
be-
this. You're getting too
Right.
serious.
Well, there is going to be a second Great Depression sooner than later if things continue to go as they are. First thing you do is you get rid of the cheap labor force. And that happened when they started caging people and people
excuse
came
me.
over the border and stuff. So there was nobody to pull the crops or to plant them correctly, which means that the soil,
Jobs, though. Jobs. We're all about jobs in America right
sure, but the soil,
now. Unemployment.
how did the Dust Bowl start in the first Great Depression? It's because of the labor. There wasn't
Yeah.
enough labor. People had moved all to the cities. So there wasn't enough labor in the rural areas to actually do that shit. So the fucking the soil and everything got arid or got bad.
Also,
in the
doesn't help
Midwest.
that weather has been more extreme the last few years.
Keep the population stupid. Get rid of the cheap labor. Anyway, that's actually just
By
a
the way,
whole thing.
Tyler-
We're not going to get into all
Tyler,
that
Tyler.
today. Yes.
Here's a conspiracy for you. Climate change. Am I right?
Right. Listen, if you ever had a glass,
I'm rolling my eyes. You can't see it, but I'm rolling
Climate
my eyes.
change isn't real, folks. Okay, listen. If
Antarctica was 62 degrees earlier this week. That's the warmest it's ever been.
you,
but
whatever. If you have a glass,
It's just weather.
If you have a glass and it's full of water, and then you drop an ice cube into the water, it's going to momentarily overflow, and then it'll go back to its regular level, said a Republican senator last year. No shit, folks. Rocks landing in the oceans are why the ocean levels are rising. Duh. Have you never done this experiment? This is science. No, it's not. But climate change is not real, dude.
No. It's the biggest lie.
It's the government testing a new microwave-based super weapon, which will kill us all.
Are you telling me it's going to be like that stupid weapon in Batman Begins
It's gonna
that
be awesome.
m-
Yeah,
takes the water and
Yeah.
turns it into microwaves?
yeah, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome.
I can see it.
Liam Neeson's just gonna step out of the Pentagon one day and be like,
I can't.
"I have a very particular set of skills." Like Liam Neeson.
don't have to stay.
I'm Darkman.
I won't kill you, but I don't have to.
You have a lot of midichlorians. George, what
Why
the
are you
fuck is it?
mixing all of his movies together?
Because it's Liam Neeson. What do you mean? What am I? Does he have a catchphrase other than the Taken thing? What?
I don't remember anything from him in Love Actually, to be honest. Actually.
What movie is that?
It's in the
My
English
brother's
movie.
tried to rope me into that satanic wizardry as well.
Love Actually
I
is...
refuse. Shut up.
Yeah, we knew it. You're big soft.
Shut up. Conspiracy theory number 9. Tyler cries at everything because he's a big pussy. False. False.
You're in touch with your feelings.
I'm in touch with myself a lot.
Anyway, next conspiracy. This is if you don't know, this is a much more relaxed episode. We're kind of all over the place.
So my next conspiracy is sort of satirical, sort of real, but I think I really like the way that I titled it, which is Johnson & Johnson masterminded 9/11. I know what you're thinking. You're like, what? Johnson & Johnson is a family company. I've seen their commercials.
They just crashed their car because they couldn't believe what they just heard.
Mind fucking blown. Stay with me, folks.
All right, here we go. Johnson & Johnson.
Johnson & Johnson execs go to Reagan and they say, hey, motherfucker.
Reagan? It starts at Reagan?
Oh, dude, this is many years ago. They go, hey, dude, while we're over there helping those Afghanis fight the Russians in their bid for freedom, would we be able to go over there and round up and take control of the poppy fields? And Reagan was like, well, no, Nancy doesn't like drugs. And they were like, fuck Nancy, dude. Do you know how much money you go eat your jelly beans, man?
And this is Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, and they were like, fuck you, Reagan. So they went away, and older Bush came in, and they're like, hey, man, I know we fucked over the Afghanis, but maybe if we give them, like, some aid because they're getting killed, slaughtered daily.
Tyler.
Not gonna do it.
Not gonna do it.
Not gonna do it.
Not gonna do it.
No, not gonna.
Not gonna
People
do it.
called me a wiener. I have one.
I wish I was
I
Oscar
have
Mayer
a wiener.
So anyway, what did did he say not gonna do it?
Not gonna do it. And they were like, fuck you, man. And they went to Clinton, and he was like, only if I get a blowjob out of it. And they were like,
I guess.
Fred, can you take one for the team?
Hey, no, I prefer Monica.
Well, she's
Send her in.
along
You know,
with-
wait, Johnson & Johnson sex trafficked Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah, they did. Oh,
Holy
Johnson
shit.
& Johnson is evil.
They're
evil.
Demonic.
You ever heard of the Umbrella Corporation in the
these are-
Resident Evil games?
Yeah.
Johnson & Johnson. Thinly veiled.
I thought they were just making
No.
they were making kids shampoo. Because when I think of Johnson & Johnson, I think of the like shampoo that's like not supposed to hurt your eyes.
It's called No More Tears.
Yeah, yeah.
You ever sprayed that shit in your eyes before? Did it tear up? It did.
False.
Fucking No More Tears.
You were yelling into the microphone. All right, so Johnson & Johnson, they go to Clinton. They say, hey, look.
We want this poppy fields. And Clinton was like, dude, listen, they're this thing called the Taliban now, and no fucking way.
I don't
They
know.
fucking
No.
hate us
Oh,
now.
let me do it.
Okay,
Let me do
yeah,
this,
yeah.
Clinton.
Okay, good.
Hey, I don't know if you know this, man, but there's this thing called the Taliban.
Oh, shit.
And they're like, hey, but with guns. And I'm like, no thanks.
They're awful, is basically what he
Gotta be
said.
careful because my Clinton can slip into my McConaughey.
Hey, man. Be a lot cooler if you
Dude,
did.
could you imagine Matthew McConaughey as Bill Clinton and his biopic?
No.
Just call me Bill. Anyway.
Call me Bill.
So he's like, no, Taliban
No,
can't
dude,
do
we
it.
can't touch them.
No.
And then shortly after that, obviously, so Johnson & Johnson was sick of it because they were like, look, we can hook the entire country on opioids and make massive profits. Somebody in that same staff room, in that same boardroom said, what about all the casualties? They were immediately murdered by everybody else
And he said,
because
look, here's the trick.
uh,
We say it's medicine, and it's supposed to help people after like major surgeries or things that would cause pain, put them up in their house. So what else can they do but just pop our fucking pills? I see where you're going with this. See how this is going. Because then they're like, hey, we'll just get them to pop pills. They'll get addicted. They'll keep wanting to buy our products. It'll ruin their whole life, and it'll be great. And then we'll blame it on things that don't really affect them. You know, exactly. I see where you're going with this.
So Johnson & Johnson said, okay, they went to the Saudi Arabian government and they said, we need 11 guys.
11.
11. We'll get them passports and everything else. We're going to bring them over to the U.S. We're going to hijack planes, and we're going to have this happen. Then, through some bald-faced chicanery and bullshitting, we're going to get the American public to believe one of the biggest lies foisted on them ever, which is that Iraq was involved in 9/11, which it wasn't. But that was, hey, we're already going to Afghanistan because of bin Laden, because that's where he used to hang out. He was a Taliban dude. But we're going to try and get Iraq so that people won't notice or care. Do you ever notice that the entire time we've been in Iraq, that we've also been in Afghanistan? How much do you hear about Afghanistan? Not a whole lot.
Not really.
You hear a lot about Iraq, don't you?
Yeah.
A lot. Why is that? Oh, is it because they want us to not think about Afghanistan with all the poppy fields that are being
or the fact that we've
sown,
been there
grown,
since
and
2003,
planted
17 years.
since 2003? You know how much fucking opioid that is? And guess who's making the drug that helps people get off opioid addictions?
Johnson & Johnson.
Fucking A.
Methadone.
And seriously, folks, this is completely serious, not satire. Johnson & Johnson was one of the pharma companies that was busted for pushing and pressuring doctors into writing far more prescriptions than they needed to sell drugs. So fuck you, Johnson & Johnson.
They're that's the thing people forget. Big Pharma.
No more tears.
People want to demonize people that sell drugs and things like that. When I'm like, dude, the biggest drug dealers in this country are legal.
Uh-huh. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Aspirin, drug. Acetaminophen, drug.
Technically, caffeine's a drug. So you
Better be. Glug, 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 know what I'm saying?
That's what I say when I drink my coffee.
Hey, man, listen here, man.
All right.
I just want... Okay.
So where does this go from here? They orchestrated 9/11. How are they still operating right now? Was it a government contract?
No, they're still operating right now because the people in this country are famously short-sighted
And corrupt.
and not critical thinkers.
Mm.
And so even though it was clear that Johnson & Johnson killed a lot of Americans with their negligence, they got off with a light fine. And because most Americans are so short-sighted and not aware of or not capable of critical thinking, they heard that and was like, well, they got punished. Not even thinking about the fact that however many $1 million they paid out is a drop in the fucking bucket.
Yeah. Well, but that's usually what happens. These big corporations, they do some really shifty, shady stuff.
Exactly.
And then they get they slap with a fine. They pay it because they're a big corporation. And like you said, it's just a drop in the bucket. It's that's $20. Just pull out $100,000, throw it on the table. We're good.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
So yeah, that's crazy. Johnson & Johnson. Quick reminder.
Satire. Sort of.
So this is what I like about your stories. You're very convincing because you're actually tying real world events into it. And this is kind of like this. We should do more of these because these are fun. Because these are a thought exercise in how people develop these conspiracies and go to these places mentally.
You know what? I'm so good at this that I just came up with one. Off the top of my head.
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
Throw it on me, buddy. Did you really?
Hollywood director Tom Shadyac is responsible
Shadyac?
for the anti-vaxxer movement.
Because he helped create Ace Ventura?
No.
And that's what kickstarted
Because
Jim
he
Carrey's
wanted
career?
to fuck Jenny McCarthy.
Are they dating?
No.
Why would he do that to his friend Jim Carrey?
So, back in the early 90s, there's this director named Tom Shadyac, and he's working with this Jim Carrey guy who's a real up-and-comer. Yeah. And Jenny McCarthy was kind of in his eyes at the time, and I know some of you are like, well, Jenny McCarthy wasn't really around or famous during the time of Ace Ventura. Yes, she was. She was a Playboy playmate.
She was, yeah.
So, shut the fuck up. She wasn't on The Grind yet.
She's on The Masked Singer.
Do you
now.
remember MTV's The Grind with Eric from The Real World? Because I do.
No, how do you... What? That's the most obscure thing I've ever heard you say.
I love that fucking shit.
Most of the time, if you give me a deep cut, I know what you're talking
Look
about.
it up, folks.
I get it.
Eric from the real world. From
I
the
remember
first
the
real
movie
world.
Grind. There was a movie called Grind,
Grind.
but I don't remember the Grind.
So,
Which makes so much sense
Jim Carrey is an up-and-comer.
that she started
And
her
he's
career
fucking
there.
a lot of playmates. And one of the ones that he has had sex with
Give him the old Canadian bacon.
has had a little bit of alone time, if you will, is Jenny McCarthy.
And
now, at the
she's-
time, there's no like, hey, let's get married. It's just, hey, I'm banging playmates because I'm a fucking young star.
Here's the thing about
And
Jenny.
you would do it too.
Here's the thing about Jenny McCarthy. I don't understand how people find her funny. One.
She's not.
Two, yes, she's attractive, but she is an anti-vaxxer, and I feel like that's a deal breaker.
And her boobs are largely Hollywood makeup.
Anyway,
If you've ever seen her with clothes on, you're like, wow, I can imagine that those are... And then you see her without the clothes on, and you're like, wow, that was a lot of padding. I feel cheated.
she's a good bra, dude. You chauvinist.
Well-
You male chauvinist. Back to the story. Jim Carrey, banging playmates.
Boobs. Yeah. Oh, it's my turn. Okay. So...
I get to talk now?
Again? I mean, Jake, you've taken over this entire show. I just didn't even know if I could get a word in edgewise, but thanks.
You've been talking more than I have.
So...
I'm just trying to fill in the blanks here.
So Tom was there the night that that Jim Carrey hooked up with Jenny McCarthy for the first time, and he could see that there was a little spark going there. And he's like, I don't like that at all because she's an up and comer too, but I'm a Hollywood like director, so I want to be like the guy who's like, hey, I can make your career happen, and then she will be like,
casting
I want
couch.
to suck on, yeah, kind of,
Yeah.
you know.
It sounds gross, but I feel like that happens.
It's totally
a lot.
gross, but it's what he wanted. Satire. So
No, this is real.
yeah. So so he goes to Jim Carrey and he's like, "Hey man, I know you were thinking about getting with that chick over there." And he's like, "Yeah, she's really hot.
Yeah, the blonde
We
one,
got
yeah.
together last night." He's like, "Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, but you know what? She used to be a dude."
What?
And Jim Carrey's like, "That's fucked up." And Shadyak like,
but because of the time,
he
that
gave
was-
all this convincing arguments to Jim Carrey that Jenny McCarthy
was a
was a
transgender
dude.
woman.
Yeah. So that left Jenny McCarthy wide open and single for Tom Shadyac to move in,
Mm,
right?
okay.
Years later, after Jim Carrey is snubbed by the Academy Awards for The Truman Show,
Great movie. Great movie.
snubbed, he and Jenny McCarthy hook up again.
Mm. This time it's
And
serious.
he says to her, after a failed attempt by Tom Shadyac to date her, right? And he says, hey, Tom Shadyac told me that you were a dude. And she says, that's ridiculous. I'm not a dude. I just believe that vaccines cause real big issues in autism. And Jim Carrey was like, that's the hottest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I can live with
And they
that.
got married. So you're like, well, wait a second. Where did she get this dumb idea? And how does Tom Shadyac figure into her getting this dumb idea about vaccines? Well,
Okay.
okay. Tom says, hey, I know we didn't hook up or anything, but I got this part in the movie for you because he's still holding out hope. This is right after Ace Ventura. Holding out hope. And he gives her all this idea about this movie and everything. And he says,
You know they teamed up again for Liar Liar, right?
yes, they do. No, this is Jenny McCarthy and Tom Shadyac.
I'm just saying him and Jim Carrey still work together after Ace Ventura.
Yeah, after they both double teamed her. I'm just kidding. So what happened was, so he's like, you need to do research on this, and it's a doctor who's come up with a vaccine for cancer. But it's a comedy. He's fucked up, by the way. And so she goes, okay, I'm going to go do this research. And she got the idea from the research that she had to do for the movie that Tom wanted her to do so that he could do her, which never happened. Yeah.
And she still believes that to this day, as far as I know. Because I don't think she's publicly said that she doesn't not believe in it. Jim Carrey's kind of just distanced
He
himself
has
from
really, and good for him. Although he has kind of lost his mind a little bit
that. He's I think he's back to normal now. There was a while where he kind of went.
To
off
me,
the
he's
deep end.
unstable. Like he's on the right track, but he's
I mean, to
unstable.
be
Like he could just
honest-
lose his shit any day now.
Yeah,
And just like next time you see him on Twitter, he's covering himself in pizza sauce on the subway and going like, "I'm Chef Boyardee, lick me." Like, damn, Jim Carrey. Damn, Jim Carrey.
he does have a lot of weird paintings that he makes.
Yeah. Still got great hair though.
Still funny guy. Still very funny.
Yeah.
I really want to see the new Sonic movie because it's like that is like 90s Jim Carrey.
I don't know what to say to you.
Dr. Robotnik? Do you ever like Sonic? You were always Team Mario, weren't you?
No, I really like Sonic, but it's also a really crappy video game movie.
I've actually heard it's good. A lot of people like it.
Jake, if we don't
your
tell
conspiracy.
these studios that we will not watch this crap, then they will keep pumping out
Tyler,
this
what
crap.
if this one's good? People said they like it. If you don't like it, that's fine, but I'm just saying other people do.
So last conspiracy of the night.
This is the last one?
Last one.
I thought you had more. You actually put a bonus one in just now.
I
so.
feel like we've talked a lot, and honestly, it was good for a first run.
We're only 35 minutes in.
I'll come up with some better ones next time. I know, but what our show's like 45 minutes or something. 10
It's
minutes.
whatever we want because
It's whatever the fuck we want.
Exactly. What's your next story?
This is really more. It's less of satire and honestly what I just believe.
Now I'm scared.
If you are a rich person on this planet, chances are that you have hunted a human for sport.
Just because that movie The Hunt is coming back to theaters?
No, because once you get to a certain point, Jake, and you just have too much money to spend on anything, even buying like free like islands and shit, what else is there?
Than to hunt people.
I already hunted the entire fucking nation of Africa with all their elephants and leopards and shit.
They're trophies. They want a new trophy. So you think the rich elite
Human trafficking is
real?
people kidnapped,
very
being
prominent.
kidnapped to be hunted on all these. Do you know how many islands are out there that are large enough to like house like a large group of people that we just don't know about? That's how vast the fucking ocean is.
Yeah.
There are islands all over the fucking place and more coming up every day.
You always see a celebrity buying a private island
How
somewhere.
many people in this world own private islands at this point? It's been going on for at least
and you
20
can do
years
whatever-
that we know of.
And you can do whatever you want in international waters.
Fucking A, dude. So who's to say?
Which is such a... I understand that it's hard to prosecute someone because there's different laws in different jurisdictions for different countries. But that's such a lame thing to be like, well, it's international waters. We can't all agree on this,
Oops.
so nothing
We
happens.
just saw somebody get murdered and
Even though across the board, murder is probably the
Bad.
biggest offense for every country. But, it's international waters.
well, over here we celebrate murder with the death penalty. Over here we celebrate it with life with life without parole. We'll see that's where we differ. So international waters.
International waters.
Meanwhile, the family of the murdered person, who is, by the way, is being played daily on TV,
Yeah.
is just like horrified and like, can I just get some fucking justice?
So you think that that's something that is going on right now is people are paying to get...
At any given moment
Someone
during
to
your
hunt.
day, you could think this thought, and it would probably be about 80% true. 80% possible that it's true. Anytime during the day or night, throughout your day, anytime, remember this phrase and just say it to yourself. Somebody is getting killed by another person for sport right now in this world. And chances are about 80% probability that is actually happening right now. It happened right now, too.
Man.
Right now, it happened again.
You could, I feel like in your past life, you were somebody like Bill Cooper or something. I feel like you could have your own show because that was some brilliant fear-mongering right there.
Wow. right now.
I know you.
I'm sort of satirical, but not really. I mean, my thing is that
I understand your line of thinking.
okay, so Jake knows my line of thinking better, and it's pretty clear if you listen to the show at all, you could probably figure out that I am left-leaning.
I think you're more cynical than I am, too.
I figure that I know that there's enough money for every human being to be fed, clothed, and sheltered. And that if we did that we would evolve as a race together and crime would drop like a fucking rock. I know these things. But nobody else does. And so honestly, I just look around the world sometimes and I just go, well, these rich people don't need to be rich. They don't need to be that rich. And when you get to a certain point where you've bought every single thing that there is to fucking buy,
I mean,
what else is left?
Look at the example right now.
People disappearing and you never hear from them again. Nothing. No, it's never solved. Who could make that happen? Governments? Sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and human trafficking is still alive, and unfortunately, it is something that we like. I don't even. There's so much legislation and changes, and the thing that.
And I'm not making light of anybody who's been human trafficked or been affected by that.
Here's my biggest.
It's a problem, and yeah. Anyway,
here's my biggest thing, and I don't mean, and I know this is getting kind of preachy, but whatever. It's our show. We can do whatever we want.
Whatever.
Here's where I stand on this. If we had made sex work more acceptable in this country, and safer and legal, we wouldn't have the. I think this would severely cut down on the problems we have with human trafficking.
If you're a prostitute in this country and you are sexually assaulted, what are the chances that you're going to go to the cops?
Right. Yeah, very small.
Big fat zero.
And they wouldn't. And
because first of all, you'd have to admit that you prostituted yourself, which is already a crime.
Well, here's the thing.
So, yeah.
What I've been saying is, because it popped up with the Robert Kraft stuff when he went to the massage parlor.
Yeah.
And here's what I said.
Massage.
I said that shouldn't be illegal. First of all, there shouldn't be human trafficking, and that was messed up. And I said that before I'd known about it. But what I'm saying is, again, I don't think something like that would exist if we legalize prostitution.
Well, what happens when...
And we could... That way you don't have pimps. That way you don't have all this disease and stuff, because you'd have to get tested. You'd have to get taken care of. But we don't want to... That's the problem with our country. We don't want to spend money on that because we think it's depraved.
How many centuries of sexual abuse of minors occurred in the Catholic Church? And only,
Still happens.
The last like 50 years, it's been uncovered and honestly uncovered, like, hey, wow, this is fucked up and we're not going to let it happen anymore. And you guys have, the whole policy of shipping priests to just another place instead of prosecuting them for the fuck, right? How many years did that happen, and why do we know more about it now? Because people shined a light on it. And as long as you keep prostitution and sex work in the dark, it's going to be real easy for people to get stolen in the middle of the night.
It's not safe for anybody involved.
No.
And it shouldn't be. And I understand what you're saying with, like, we're at a level now where...
I'm saying you have to shine light on the problem for the problem to be understood. You have to see it before you can fix it.
But what you're trying to say with the whole private islands and the hunting humans is you're saying that you could see it get to that level of extreme because, like you said, when you have all this money, I mean, look at the situation right now in just our politics, where Mike Bloomberg bought himself onto a stage. He didn't make any requirements to be in the debate. Neither did Tulsi Gabbard. And you know something? She wasn't on the stage. He was, because he bought his way on the stage.
Tulsi Gabbard's a Republican.
They control our government. They control everything that's involved. For Pete's sake, we elected a New York billionaire to be our president.
Right.
So I can see where your line of thinking would be like, the next thing you know, they're just going to human traffic people to these private islands.
Well, I don't mean that. I'm saying that, to be really brutally honest, I do believe that there's a level that you can get to.
I do too.
In this world, where you can say, hey, can we get maybe a blonde white guy and maybe a couple Asians for this weekend? And do you have any of those experimental weapons from Russia? Yeah? Okay. Meet me on my island. Okay, we're going to go hunting this week. Cool. I really do believe that if you say that to a certain person, that you can make that happen.
That'd be a crazy movie. Look at me right now. Write that screenplay. No, and I understand to an aspect of that where I think that it's just the next extreme, and when you have, because money has so much power in any country, more so ours, I think, but corruption exists everywhere. But yeah, that's just the way
I'm
it
not
works.
perfect. I don't want to sit here and be like, I am so much better than everybody because I believe it. But how many people do you talk to, honestly, who actually believe that this whole capitalism thing is just bullshit? And to be really honest, like, the fact that we aren't taking care of every single living human being is just crap, and it's unnecessary, and it doesn't have to happen. Because I do. Little old me, what?
Little old me.
Hey,
Well, now you're talking to like a socialist, and we can't.
The war on drugs is designed to keep people poor. Cool. Let's keep going on that shit.
It's Johnson and Johnson.
Johnson and Johnson.
They're the ones who started.
The dirty whore Nancy Reagan.
See, they said, "Hey, we won't get the poppy fields, but we'll start the war on drugs." That's really where it started. You missed it there. I feel like Reagan could have been the catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
Because he could have been like, well, Nancy and I are against drug use.
The reason why the whole Just Say No campaign came about was because when Reagan took office, Johnson & Johnson approached him because they had a previous deal with Ford, Nixon, Johnson, and Kennedy before them.
Right.
And they said, hey, Reagan, this is how it goes with Johnson & Johnson. And he was like, well, I never. And he went and told Nancy. He went and told Nancy. And he said, Nancy, can you believe what Johnson & Johnson's doing? Over in Afghanistan the whole time. Yeah. And she was like, not in my White House.
And then
the next
she
day,
ripped off a wig and mask, and she was one of the Johnson & Johnson
The next day,
people.
the Just Say No campaign happened.
Yes.
So then Johnson & Johnson was good and well fucked. So it's Nancy Reagan's fault that 9/11.
No,
I'm not going to finish that thought because even though it's very satirical, I could totally see somebody just being
somebody
like,
will clip it out and be like,
really?
He said that. Yeah.
Really?
That's
like,
what.
Fuck, there goes my career.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I hate that we have to like mention it's. I miss the days when you didn't have to say, "Hey, this is satire." So yeah. Anyway, this has been a more relaxed episode, and you got to do that
I
sometimes.
almost pissed myself. That's how relaxed I am.
I had to pee this whole time.
Oh, because I was laughing. That's all right.
Well, if you're still alive and you didn't crash your car after there's this mind-blowing truth.
And if you if you made it through this without throwing your phone or whatever device at some point and going, "Fuck you, Tyler, you fucking jerk." Then
We'll see you next
congratulations.
week. Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Because I almost didn't make it through with that, and I was talking.
Well, that's a problem you got to deal with. So anyway, we'll be back.
That's a self-esteem issue, Tyler.
We'll be back next week. Like I said, we're kind of experimenting with this show, and we're figuring out how we want to do it. Because we still like doing it. We still like the topics that we're doing. But we're trying to deliver a more streamlined, efficient show just because some of this has a lot of research, and we're very busy with our regular lives fighting the government.
If you have a particular conspiracy theory, either that you've made up or that you would like us to touch upon, please.
Email it to us.
Yep.
tinfoilradiopodcast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
That actually is a great idea, and kind of got me off guard.
We may use it.
We might just
in
do
a
an
future episode
dedicated to it.
Next week, however, we are doing.
We're going to be doing our first profile episode. We're going to be covering
Encourage.
As we mentioned at the beginning of this, profiles in conspiracy.
Profiles in conspiracy. Next week.
I mentioned her at the top of the show. It's Lynn Leah's. That's her YouTube. Go watch some of her videos. Mm. I'm not going to cover all of them, but I think how we're going to do these profile episodes, and we're going to get a little inside baseball here. But I'm going to pick one particular video. I will post it in the link to this, or I'll put it in the description of this. I will put it on social media so you'll know which video I'm talking about. And get ready, strap in, because it's going to be a
strap in or strap on.
Wild ride. She will be a recurring character. All of our profiles and conspiracy people will be recurring characters on this show.
Also next week, special guest star Ayn Rand.
From the grave. Or is it?
Seance.
Again, you can check. You can.
Seance, motherfuckers.
We don't have social media yet.
No.
But,
We will.
I'm not gonna let you have the password. Tweet.
That's a good idea.
Anyway, you can
Did you
listen.
see what Tinfoil Radio tweeted out again
That was crazy.
for the third time today?
So,
After his account was
will you
frozen.
let me close the show? You can listen to this show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. And we will see you next week when we talk about our first Profiles in Conspiracy.
I'm Hugh Downs.
I'm Jake Williams.
I'm Jake Williams.
That's Tyler Allen.
I'm Jake Williams.
And that's the end of the show.
What is my problem?